great to be
We
with
really
you.
appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Let's start with the idea now that maybe we keep the federal government going by dipping into government workers' pension funds.
Well, if you're talking about Secretary Geithner's efforts to try and sort of shuffle things around between now and August 2nd, that's something that's been done in the past. But ultimately, that method will run out, and we will face the prospect of defaulting on the U.S. debt.
But it does point to the fact that some draconian things, perhaps draconian for some and maybe not for others, have to be done. And one of the things that really feels like is getting some traction, and you can help us because you're part of the negotiations with this, is that federal workers may have to contribute more to their own retirement.
Well, when you look at the federal workforce, you've got to look at the entire compensation package. You've got to look at salaries as well as other benefits. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics show that when it comes to salaries, the majority of federal employees actually get less. So should we take a look at this whole issue?
Right.
I'm not saying no, but you should focus on prospective employees rather than changing the terms of the bargain.
But with all due respect, sir, you brought up the entire package. The entire package is incredible compared to the average working person out there who has suffered mightily. The average American who doesn't work for the federal government has to be looking at this and saying, for them to contribute 5% to their retirement is nothing.
Actually, that's just not the case with respect to the entire package. But if you want to look at a particular piece of the package, then you need to look at the other elements as well and make sure you have a fair overall package. There are a lot of folks out there who do very well on salaries who may not have done as well in terms of the retirement package. So let's look at the whole compensation package, make sure that the incentives are correct in the overall package. But look, in order to get our deficits under control, certainly future federal employees are going to have somewhat probably of a different structure, and that's something that should be looked at along with everything else. And again, that's the key. We got to look at other pieces as well, and not just say to federal employees, we're going to take it out on you alone.
Well, I understand you're in an awkward position because federal employees make up a lot of your constituents, so you must be crafting a message to take to them, and it sounds like you're somewhat on board with the fact that they do have to make greater sacrifices than they're making now.
Well, my focus would be on prospective employees. In other words, the federal government needs to look at the overall compensation structure. It may be the case that you're going to have to raise salaries for some employees to make sure that you continue to attract top talent. Other parts of the compensation package maybe could use some reform. But again, let's make sure that we look at the overall package, not try and pick out little pieces of it one at a time.
Congressman, are you saying that in effect, anybody who is currently an employee would be grandfathered into anything that you're thinking about right now in terms of pensions?
I believe that that would be the fair approach. In other words, these are people who were attracted to the federal government based on a particular compensation structure. They've already had COLAs frozen, as is appropriate, even though lots of the other parts of the federal government, like subsidies to big oil companies, they're not taking any time off. So let's look at all these things together. But it seems to me when you're designing the compensation structure, you want to make sure you don't sort of change the bargain going forward.
But private companies do change the bargain going forward, though, don't they?
Well, actually, usually if you get hired on and you sign a contract with a private employer, the private employer usually is good to the contract. So
not for the people don't sign. Well, when you join a private company, you don't sign a contract for the next 30 or 40 years.
When I worked for a law firm, we had a retirement plan, and I can tell you that the law firm didn't come around later and say sorry.
Although the law firm didn't go out of business.
And the federal government's not going out of business.
I just want to switch gears only because we're running out of time, and I just have to ask you about the debt ceiling debate. We officially hit the debt ceiling today. Where are we going to go with this? And we've got less than a minute for you to tell the viewers what's going to happen here.
Well, I hope everybody realizes that playing around with the debt ceiling, meaning defaulting on the U.S. debt, would be a disaster for the U.S. economy. Should we come up with a plan right now to reduce the deficit? Yes. The question is how. And you've got some folks not only saying that they will allow us to default on our debt, but they're saying we'll allow you to default on our debt if we don't get it 100% our way. That is not a rational approach to what could be a catastrophic economic issue.
Really want to thank you.
Good to be here.
You covered a lot in a short period of time. Appreciate it.